Jamie Broughton speaking to Mark Selby. The World Snooker Championship getting underway today as we approach 10 to 7.
The music pioneer, producer and artist Brian Eno has developed a generative music app called Reflection. If you're wondering what a generative music app is, essentially it takes a piece of his music but then plays it in a new and different form each time. Here's a little taste of the music and Brian Eno's thoughts on it.
Trying to kind of make a version of me in this software, right. My taste, if you like. So I'm always interested in what is at the edge of my taste envelope, if you like, and randomness is a way of finding out.
Well, the software designer Peter Chilvers developed the app alongside Brian Eno. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
How does all of this work?
Ooh, that's a long answer, but it takes ideas that Brian's had. So he created the album by creating these separate strands of music, little sequences, and then every time it plays it back, it puts a little random variation in it. So each time round, it will play just ever so slightly differently. It's very subtle, but those sort of shifts let you keep listening to it. Often, in some cases, people listen to it for hours or even days on end. Actually, it's a peculiarly subtle effect.
Yeah, so it's never the same twice.
No,
that's clever, isn't it? I mean, we've had variations since the days of Vivaldi, haven't we? You know, so this is a form of that.
Yes, I think but it gets rid of having all those messy humans in the way, having to play it back. So you don't need an ensemble of musicians sitting in your room all the time you want to play it, I suppose.
So it's all entirely electronically generated?
Yes. Except for one sound, actually, which is the sound of hitting a plate. I was eating a salad in the studio. The knife hit the plate, and we realised it's at exactly the right pitch of the music, so we actually incorporated a bit of that into it.
Is it all that kind of tone that we just heard there, that feeling of... I would sort of think of picturing myself in a spa with that kind of music in the background, if you know what I mean.
Yes, and it's very meditative, and it's pretty much constant, that tone. It's very subtle little washes in and out, kind of a bit like being by the sea, I suppose, in some ways, just hearing sort of sounds drift in and out of your sort of consciousness. There's a great phrase Brian used to describe ambient music, which is as ignorable as it is interesting, which almost sounds like an insult, but it actually, having so little going on, actually it does something odd to your brain. You kind of could really lock into it in a way. It's
a really neat idea, but isn't some of the attraction of some of the music streaming sites that are out there these days, or even your own music library, is that a piece of music will pop up that you haven't actually selected, but it's a piece of music that you might not have heard for a long time, and a piece of music that you absolutely love, and you think, thank you, technology, for putting this back into my life when I was least expecting it. That's a very attractive thing as well, is it not?
Yes, definitely. I think there's room for all manner of types of music playback. I think this type of music, serves a particular purpose. It's almost not quite music. It creates a sort of atmosphere, and it's. I think it works particularly well if you're getting on with writing or getting on with some work, to have something that's not really impinging too much on your consciousness. It fits that role very nicely, I think.
So the music, it wakes up at 7 o'clock. Is that right?
It's actually playing constantly. So what happens is overnight it gets slower and slower and slower. And there's a particular spot I like, which oddly is actually exactly the time you've chosen this interview, where it really slows down to be playing very little at all. And then at 7 o'clock it kind of perks up. It's a bit like the day starting. So.
And so how many times have you listened to it, Peter? Is it something that you're listening to while you're working?
I do listen to it a lot. I had a bit of a break because I think I rather overdosed in the process of developing it. But I did listen to it a huge amount while testing, and particularly I'm a bit of an insomniac as it happens. So I found it's a very nice thing to have on in the middle of the night.
I mean, Brian is such a creative, unique artist. Can you see other artists, other singers, musicians following his route as well? Is it the future of music?
It's a future, I think. I think there's always room for completely static music the way we've done, and I think it's a whole area to be tapped into of music that changes every time you listen to it.
Thank you very much, Peter. Very interesting indeed. Peter Chilvers, who worked on this app alongside Brian Eno. It's a generative app called Reflection.
And Brian Eno came up with the Windows startup sound. You know, when you turn on your PC and that noise that comes on. Brian Eno came up with that sort of 3-second thing. And they said, "Oh, can you do that, Brian?" And he came up with the sound. But I don't think he gets royalties. It's not it gets made
every time somebody starts up their laptop.
It's like a PRS thing. It doesn't quite work like that for him. Let's, before we get to the news at 7 o'clock, talk about funding of schools. Such a critical issue.